Each of us has a unique mission from God, a divine calling that no one else can fulfill. We are all part of the church, yet God calls us differently to be parents, priests, religious, or lay persons. Our fulfillment in life does not come from chasing worldly success, but from answering God's call with faith, obedience, and love. Sometimes we think only priests, nuns, or saints receive a calling. But God calls everyone: students, parents, teachers, farmers, doctors, shopkeepers, and even those who feel unworthy or unimportant. Our calling is not always about doing something grand. It is about doing ordinary things with extraordinary love. Throughout history, God has called people from all walks of life, not because they were perfect, but because they were willing. Isaiah, in today's first reading, felt unworthy and sinful, yet he responded, "Here I am, send me." Similarly, St. Paul, in the second reading, admitted that he was once a persecutor of Christians, yet God's grace transformed him into one of the greatest missionaries. And in today's Gospel, Peter, overwhelmed by his own sinfulness, tried to push away Jesus, saying, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." But Jesus saw beyond his flaws and made him a fisher of men. Dear friends, today's readings show us how God calls people sometimes when they least expect it, and how He transformed their lives. God calls ordinary people like you and me. Look at the people in today's readings. Isaiah was overwhelmed by his sinfulness, yet God cleansed him and called him to be a prophet. Paul was once a persecutor of Christians, yet God made him one of the greatest evangelists. Peter was just a fisherman. He was not a scholar or a leader. He felt unworthy when Jesus performed a miracle in his boat, saying, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." But Jesus told him, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men." Dear friends, this shows that God does not call the perfect. He calls sinners, doubters, and ordinary people like you and me. But when they say yes to Him, He changes them into instruments of His love. People from all age groups and all walks of life have graciously accepted the divine call and become saints. Saint Teresa of Child Jesus, the Little Flower, heard God's call and joined the Carmelite convent when she was only 15. Mother Teresa heard God's call and joined the Loreto Sisters when she was 18. Saint Jane Zugan was 47 when she heard God calling her to devote her life to the care of the sick and the elderly. Saint Ignatius of Loyola heard God's call as a wounded and recovering soldier in his late 30s. Saint Francis Xavier and Saint Augustine were university professors when they heard God's call. Saint Cosmos and Saint Damian were physicians and pharmacists. Saint Cyrus Alexandrian was a doctor. Saint Louis IX was a French king. Saint Thomas More held a high position in the lower court of King Henry VII in England. Saint Isidore and Maria Cabeza were ordinary farmers. Saint Gregory and his wife, Saint Nona, were the ideal husband and wife and parents of 3 saints. And Saint Louis Martin and his wife, Saint Zélie Guérin, were parents of Saint Teresa of Child Jesus. Just like Isaiah in the first reading, Saint Paul in the second reading, and Saint Peter in the Gospel, all these saints acknowledged their sinfulness and limitations. And God blessed their good will and enabled them to transform their lives. Dear friends, what does this mean for us? You don't have to be rich or famous to be called by God. You don't have to be a priest or a nun to serve Him. You don't have to be perfect. God's grace is enough. God calls people right where they are. A mother raising her children with love is fulfilling her calling. A teacher who inspires students is answering God's call. A businessman who runs his company with honesty and fairness is living his mission. Dear friends, God speaks to us in different ways. Through our talents and passion. What are you naturally good at? What excites you? That could be God's way of leading you to your mission. Through the needs of others. Sometimes our calling is found in helping those around us. If you feel deeply moved to serve the poor, teach children, or care for the sick, that may be your mission. Through prayer and reflection. When we take time to pray and listen, God gives us clarity. Many people hesitate when they hear God's call. They think, I am not good enough. Neither was Peter, but Jesus chose him. I don't have time. God works with your daily life. I don't know what to do. God will guide you one step at a time. Dear friends, fear and doubt are normal, but God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. God's call is not just for saints. It is for you and me. He calls us in our daily lives, in our families, workplaces, and communities. But how do we respond? Recognize your call. Your vocation may be as a teacher, doctor, parent, or artist. Whatever your role, God has placed you there with a purpose, for a purpose. Overcome fear and excuses. Peter felt unworthy. Isaiah felt inadequate. Paul had a sinful past. Yet they said yes to God. Don't let fear hold you back. Relying on God's grace. We cannot fulfill our mission by our own strength. Jesus tells us, without me, you can do nothing. John chapter 15, verse 5. Live with love and mercy. Our calling is not just about what we do, but how we do it. Serve with joy, love, and forgiveness, radiating Christ's presence wherever you go. Be open to change. Sometimes God's call comes when we least expect it. Be ready to surrender your plans and say, "Here I am, Lord." Say yes to small things. Your mission begins with small acts of love. Helping a neighbor, being patient with your family, being honest at work. Don't rely only on your abilities. Pray and ask for His help. Sometimes God calls us to new opportunities, challenges, or even difficulties to shape us into a better person. Imagine if Isaiah had said, "I am too sinful," and refused God's call. Imagine if Peter had said, I am just a fisherman, and walked away from Jesus. Imagine if Paul had said, I am too unworthy, and ignored God's grace. But they didn't. They said yes. What about you and me? Are you ready to say, Here I am, Lord, send me? God is not looking for perfect people. He is looking for willing hearts, no matter your job, background, or struggles. He has a plan for you. All you need to do is trust Him and take the first step. May we have the courage to say yes to God's call, knowing that His grace will guide us every step of the way. Amen. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.